use the CP!
Yo, there's all sorts of shit up here, man.
This is fucking crazy shit.
Jesus Christ. That's fucking creepy.
And this is no redneck. No redneck is this creative.
Well, these here are what remain of the original stickmen. The others remaining having been captured by tourists and fans alike over the years, but I still have what remain to be about a dozen or so of these all. Some of these have some significant meaning. This one here, for instance, I have a picture at home of both Ed and Steph building this stickman on that cold October day in '97. This one here would by far be the most famous stickman of them all. This is the one that everyone identifies with the film. This is the one that you see on all the poster designs, on all the marketing, on all the advertising of Blair. This one here, the 6-foot hairy Chewbacca, has rechristened Mr. Fuzzy by Ed's daughter, young daughter, Bianca Sanchez. She now refers to him as Mr. Fuzzy. The stickman actually is the brainchild of Ben Rock, the production designer. Ben had been approached by Dan Myrick to create some figures they could place in the woods to help with the creepy factor, if you will. Ben had been sifting through a book called Mysterious Alphabets, and in that book there was the history of the runes. There was also reference to the Rune Man, and that figure of the Rune Man is actually what inspired Ben to sketch out the stick figure itself. Sketched that out on a notepad. When they went into production, just as they were shooting the film, production at the time was at Steph's house. Ben was outside. He had collected some sticks and some twine and was creating them outside while they were making plans inside. Ed came out, saw the stick figure, and his response is relatively sarcastic, saying, "This looks like a bunch of sticks tied together with string." And Ben's reaction was like, "No, hold the phone now. Wait a second. I'm on to something here. Wait until you see what I'm doing. This is going to work. This is going to work real well." And Ben was right, although, amazingly enough, Ben felt that Dan and Ed didn't particularly care for the stick figure at first, not until they saw the results of it in the film, and of course when it made to the poster design, that changed everything. They knew they were definitely sold on it by then. So that, in a nutshell, is pretty much the history of these guys, and what remains are about a dozen left.
Get out of here now.
Yeah, please. Okay, I've got everything on video, man. Oh, Jesus Christ, I didn't even fucking see these, man.
That's it, Heather. Heather, you got enough, man. Let's go. That's enough.
Stop taping! Please stop taping!
Okay, we're leaving right now. Okay, we're out of here. I'm leaving.
Come on, turn it off!
Freezing in here, man.
What we were talking about a second ago was y'all at Tiff Circle, the first time you were talking about Blair Witch. And you were saying that...
Yeah, we were talking about, like, what makes a horror movie, like, scary. And my, like, I don't know why the hell we came up with that. We were talking about that. But my whole theory was like that the like cuts in a film let the audience off the hook, you know. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool to have a scene in a film where it's like one shot, and you know, you see like, let's say like there's a door at the end of the hall.
Right.
It's all creepy looking.
Right.
And you slowly approach that door. You know, you go into one room, you go into the next. But you know you're going, you know, you're heading toward that door, and then you see the character open the door, and they're going down the steps. So there's no release for the audience. And then we started thinking about what made those In Search ofs and Bigfoot documentaries and Search of Noah's Ark and all that shit. Why it was so scary to us, even now, you know. It's
Chariots
pretty
of the
creepy.
Gods.
Chariots of the Gods. So we went out and rented a couple of those movies, like
Right then, that day.
that day, yeah. We spent that weekend just doing this shit.
Were you thinking of making a horror film, or you're just like,
We were
let's
just
talk
talking
about
about, you know.
Just loosely thinking about it.
Yeah, and then, so we rented them, and we were like really, I hadn't seen Chariot of the Gods even when I was a kid. But we got In Search of Noah's Ark, I think, and
Like
we got
the Boggy
this
Creek.
Yeah, the Boggy Creek one was really scary, and then the Nostradamus one, and then we rented this Nova one that completely debunked the UFO thing. We're like, that's not fun, that's not scary. They're using logic, that's not scary at all. So,
But you didn't watch any modern horror films? It was all
no,
old stuff?
it was all old stuff.
And why'd you do that? Why'd you pick all the old
Because,
stuff?
I mean, when we were kids, that was the last time that we were truly horrified, I think. There hasn't been a really good horror movie in a long time. I mean,
Maybe
a truly
Poltergeist or
horrifying movie.
anything?
No, even Poltergeist. I think Poltergeist is more of like a special effects film than it is a horror film.
Right.
You know, you look back at those movies in the Changeling. Have you ever seen the Changeling?
No.
It was like 1978 or something like that. I mean, that's a scary movie just by the inherent look of it.
With The
And The
Exorcist.
Exorcist and The Omen. I mean, those movies just have like this.
I thought The Exorcist was modern.
The Exorcist was like 1980 or 79 or something like that. Or 78. Might be older than that.
So you're saying these old films are really cool, and then what were you talking
Yeah, and then for some reason we came up with the idea of having this cabin or like this haunted hell house that these people come across. Remember that was the initial idea of Blair, is that we
Well,
took.
it was first going to be an expedition. We had some kind of expedition.
But this is before the expedition. This was like, because remember we were talking about the
just-
long
yeah,
takes of
just-
having
yeah.
like,
Yeah,
we were
I
like,
remember that.
let's imagine a house, and I had told Dan about this thing that my aunt had seen when she was sleeping one night. She woke up and she saw this like really tall figure with a sheet, kind of like a sheet draped over him, but in the dark, and the thing was like leaning forward, and she thought it was me. She was like, Eduardo, what are you doing? You know, in Spanish, of course. And I didn't
What's
answer.
it in Spanish?
Eduardo, ¿qué estás haciendo? ¿Qué pasa?
What are the science?
And then, so, he was just sitting there, leaning back and forth, you know, straight, just going forward and backwards, and it started scaring the shit out of her. So then the thing stopped, you know, moving, and it moved over to this full-length mirror that she has, and it just faced the mirror, and it went back and forth. But she said that it went back and forth too much for it to be a normal person.
Right.
I mean, anybody who could, you know what I'm saying? I mean, there's only a certain limit that you go until you fall forward. So it was almost like it was being suspended. And then she rolled over and woke her husband up, and, you know, the thing was gone. It was, you know, it was some kind of vision.
Well, we started getting onto these kicks, these freak ourselves out kicks.
Yeah.
And we'd have these like little pseudo seances.
At night, yeah.
That right hand story of mine and stuff.
Yeah,
like
we
that.
would like get together at night with a bunch of people. After like the party would die down, we had a lot of parties, and we'd just be like, all right, let's just tell some fucked up stories, you know, turn off all the lights.
We would freak ourselves out.
Dan had a couple scary stories, and you know, everybody had some scary stories. But that particular, you know, figure moving back and forth like that kind of creeped us out. Like, damn, that's kind of creepy because it's supernatural. I mean, it's either being suspended by a wire, you know, somebody's gone through like, you know, a lot of trouble to scare you, or it's something supernatural. So we were thinking like they go into the house, somebody goes into the house. At this point, it was just a camera basically, and there's like pentagrams on the floor, and there's like a goat head, and there's candles. And then we go into this other room, and there's this figure just, you know, there's like, they can't leave the house. We were trying to figure out why can't they leave the house, and then
And
the
the
whole
house
thing
is just completely decked out with
just
shit on
hair
the
and
walls
fucked up
and
shit
yeah,
everywhere. I mean,
just- everywhere you looked, it was
just
just
a
like
nightmare.
yeah.
And for some reason, they're in this house, and they go down, and they go down to the cellar, and it's all one take. That was our big concern. It was like we do it one take, so it's like not really like it looks real. You know, there's no cut for the people to say. There's no relief. You know, from the action. And that.
And even from outside, coming in from
Yeah.
outside, you go up to the house,
Yeah.
into the door, and it's just like.
Yeah, and you kind of see where you're going, like the whole idea of having the hall and then having this creepy ass door at the end of the hall. So as like you approach it, the audience is like, God, I hope they don't go down that door. And then you see somebody opens up the door and they go down. And,
So this was a period of a long time you were talking about all this. Or was this all one night where you
it
go,
was like
okay, the cabin.
It was like 3 days. We would do a lot of those kind of creep yourself out at night things during
Yeah.
a lot. You know, we used to do that after just about every party. You know, when it started dwindling down, it would be like the party was over. It would be like, all right, let's chill out and tell some stories. But I mean, literally over like 3 days is when we came out. 2 or 3 days is when we came up with the idea for Blair. From that idea, from the house idea of the people in the house, it was kind of natural that it was going to be in the woods.
Right.
And
And were you thinking film now, or were you
we were thinking completely film.
Yeah.
Were you thinking
Yeah,
like
we didn't
white?
think video
Were you thinking
We were
documentary or
thinking-
what?
We were thinking like originally like when I don't know how the idea for the kids came up, but I remember it was an expedition. It was like, why don't we do like an expedition? And then the idea came up that why don't we make this like film students? You know, so it's like more, so it's like easier to screw up. You know. And we originally said, well, you know, how can we just have it all on film, because we were completely against video. We were like, nah, video's gonna kill it, and it's not gonna work with video.
Well, we envisioned some scenes that would be inherent in film that wouldn't be possible in video. Like one big scene that we thought would be very cool is like these kids are running from something and they're pointing at something and it's after them and the camera's just rolling.
Right.
And then the camera rolls out of film and all you hear is the Nagra, just the sound from the Nagra as they're going through the woods and stuff like that. That would be inherent in film and, you know, two-system sound.
Right.
But you could do that. Or video, you know, once you turn off the camera, the sound goes off. So that's like, those kinds of techniques and stuff like that lend itself to that creep factor, which film would give us.
Yeah, and our original vision for Blair was gonna be like these total documentary. I mean, like 75%, 80% documentary, and then
So
maybe
even with the cabin, you were going to
20%.
do documentary feel.
No, the cabin was before
Oh.
the documentary feel. The cabin was just part of it was like the first step.
Right.
The first step was the having no cuts.
Right.
The second step, I think, was the cabin idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third step was the expedition.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally the fourth was the kids, having the kids in this real life situation. But we were gonna have like we wanted to do film just because of those techniques, because of the two system, you know, the sound and the film and the visuals, you know, have to be separated. So we were gonna mess around with it a lot. Like we were gonna have like the camera go off into the woods because something's chasing them, and then the Nagra stays behind the tent and you hear like weird noises or
Right.
Demonic spirits. I don't know what the hell.
And the look, I mean.
And the look of it, because remember we were completely basing the film, what we wanted the film to look like as you know, a 70s film.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted it to look like The Legend of Boggy Creek. We wanted it to be kind of orangey and, you know, just kind of, because we thought that was part of the appeal of like In Search of but Legend of Boggy Creek and Chariots of the Gods. It's the fact the film looks like, it's not crisp, it's not like
Right.
35mm nice, you know, well lit. It's just kind of like this raw,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes it real. It makes it more real, you know, more realistic. You know,
Right.
people aren't lit, you know. So we were thinking of in those terms. You know, we're gonna do just 60mm color, and we're just gonna have these little scenes. Like there was one scene we were gonna do where somebody's like they're in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
and they're talking, and the guy, they're just sitting around a campfire, and he has the camera, and this interview goes on for 1 or 2 minutes,
Right.
and then in the documentary, in the film, we were gonna say, in frame 227 of minute 4 of roll 7, we have this image comes up behind, John or whoever the hell was talking. And just on the corner of the screen, we're gonna have like this kind of, and we're gonna do all this later, post-production, but just kind of like this figure just kind of, it kind of looks like a man, but could be anything, where it could be a shadow. But we were gonna do a lot of things like that, where it's like the people didn't know what was out there, yet the film picked things up, and the same with the audio.
You're still trying to do that during the shooting of the film, like when you had the guy in white fall into the creek.
We still had that, it developed, it came to the point where it was like, we were gonna do a lot of tricks like that, like we were thinking, Dan and Greg came up with one, and I wasn't here for this one, they just told me, where they were gonna have like somebody standing there in the dark.
For the trailer?
And then all of a sudden, they were just gonna be picked up, just out of the shot.
Yeah, we had all
And I
that
was
whacked out.
And
I was
when
like,
was
what?
When did you decide yet? Like, tell
Well-
the story.
Well, we were thinking about something really cool as we're putting together this trailer, investor trailer or whatever, and we wanted some like really impactful shot at the end, just to kind of, be like, this is like an amazing thing, and here's a piece of the film, and we were gonna have somebody. You have to kind of envision it. They're running through the woods. The camera's running through the woods at night, and there's just a light on the person, like Heather or something in front, and they're just running, and we have that person in front on a rig or something like that, and you just see them like get pulled like up and out of the frame, like what the fuck pulled them out of the, what the hell was that? So that was, and we started thinking about what the rigging, and I'm like,
And you're gonna kill somebody.
yeah, and then I started thinking, well, I'll do the run. I'm contemplating, we're like have a truck like pull the rope, and I'll be in a harness. Like, oh my god! But we talked ourselves out of that morality.
But there's
then-
gonna be a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah, it was really all that was born out of the analysis you see in like UFO when you see those blurry
Yeah.
photos and stuff like that. Really creepy stuff,
Because we're gonna
Darkness
completely do like
Monster
a
and all that.
documentary that examined like almost scene by scene analysis of the of the footage. And we were gonna do stuff. We were gonna do all kinds of stupid stuff. Not stupid stuff, but just stuff that just made it inherently like something was really fucking with them out there and left all this proof behind.
And did you I know that Jane used to be like this hero character. She's supposed to be kind of this she wasn't whacked out like Heather was, and that was a decision made later on. But did you have all that defined at this point? Or did you just keep on talking about it for years?
No, I don't think we had 3 characters defined yet. Or that we were gonna have one as a girl or anything. That
we were pretty open.
Came later.
Yeah, we were pretty open to, whatever turned us on in casting and
Yeah.
stuff like that. We knew it was probably going to be 3 people.
Yeah, it was kind of like.
But did you decide on that third day, yes, we're going to do this, we're going to call it the Blair Witch? What was
No, we just
Blair Witch
decided.
came later.
It wasn't even a witch or anything.
Yeah.
The Blair Witch
started as a cult kind of.
Yeah, it was going to be like a cult thing where these cult members are. That's where the whole Blair Witch cult was around for a while. The name, but the Blair name came up just probably maybe 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was running a synopsis for it because I was getting started. I was working at American Reaper and I was really sick of working there, and I was like, I got to do something, and I was like, the best thing we have is the witch film, and that's what we call it, the witch film or the woods film.
Because it wasn't a witch.
The cult film. I don't know what the hell it was. And then, but I remember being the witch, and then one day I was just sitting in front of my computer. I'm like, we gotta name this fucking thing something. And me and Dan had talked about names, and I was like, I'm just gonna name it the Blair Witch.
Well, what names had you talked about before?
We hadn't really talked about any names.
We were just trying to identify what it was going to be like.
So it was like the horror film.
It was the woods film for a while, and then it was the witch film for a while.
Yeah, it was a witch
and it was
film.
the cult film for a while in between there. But at the end, it was the witch film because I remember saying Blair Witch. And
Why
I was
did you
like,
decide
okay.
Blair Witch?
My sister had gone to Blair High School, and I was just like, Blair just came into my mind. I was like, yeah, Blair's good, for now. And we just named it Blair, and I told Dan about it, and Dan, he didn't really like it. He was like, no, man, it's a stupid name. But as, you know.
But names are like that.
Names are like that. It's like when you first, yeah, it's like,
fuck, you know?
that's the whole thing, is like when the first time you name a film or you name a character, it's pretty much probably going to stay that way, you know. That's why you got to be kind of careful when you first name things. But
Which was not what you did.
no, I was just, it got to a point where I was like, I have to name this because I'm writing this treatment to send, you know, to give to people so I can start getting them excited about this film. But no, that was how Blair was born. And then the hell else were we talking about?
Well, we started as I was driving around, I was coming up with scenes and ideas and shit like that. And then I came in one day, I said to Ed, you know, wouldn't it be cool if they were walking through the woods and they see these stick guys? And, you know, like, and I have, my vision of the stick guys were like much more advanced than what they ended up being. But it was still like, you know, going through and they kind of go through the woods and they emerge and they see these things hanging from the trees, and Ed really dug that, and that kind of spurred us thinking of these scenes.
Yeah.
You know, that we got a lot of scenes we thought of that were never in the film, you know, but, you know, there's another thing I was thinking about. It'd be cool if they're all sitting around the campfire, and all of a sudden it just gets really cold, you know, like it drops to like 20 degrees for about 15 minutes, and you see their breath. And we all thought that was really cool, but how the hell would we pull that off? You know, like stage it in a freezer or something? There's, you know, there'd be no way we could do that. But so we just kind of started brainstorming scenes and trying to define it a little bit more about what were they going through. And I thought of like, it couldn't escape from, actually it was born out of that idea of that house, that the slave story.
Slave story, yeah.
And I thought of an idea of like, imagine if the kids running from this house can't, like they're running down the road away from this house to get away from this monster, and they're running down the road and they come to an entrance and they're entering the other side of the yard of the house again. They, no matter where they run into the woods, they emerge back at the house.
Right.
So I said that was
and that was originally the it's the same log scene.
right.
That was the original thing.
The original thing. But we had no way of.
Yeah, he told me about it, and I was like, that sounds cool. When this was before we even started of shooting it.
Right. Oh, so when was this? 2 years?
This is like 3 years ago, probably. I mean, we talk every time we got together. We would talk about the witch movie,
right?
And we would. I remember being at when you were with Richard Dubin and pitching it to Dennis.
Yeah,
that's cool. But it was completely different, you know. It was like a completely different type of film.
Yeah.
But the log thing came across as like. He pitched that. That's one of the original ideas that he pitched to Greg, and Greg loved that scene. And then I started thinking about how the hell are we going to do that scene? I mean, it's going to look. It's too much too soon, I think.
Right.
And I started talking, and it was actually we decided that we were going to do that like that month when we got to Maryland. When they got to Maryland, me and Dan, because we had already written the script a couple months before. And we started going point by point exactly how we're going to break this down and do it.
Pull it off.
And I told him, I said, you know, I don't know how it's going to be it's too much right away. And Dan started agreeing with me. He's like, yeah. So I started thinking, well, why don't they just like walk the whole day and they end up at the same campsite? So that was our original plan up until like maybe literally like 3 or 4 days before we were going to shoot.
And then you found the log location. You were like, oh.
Well, it wasn't that. It was like the way we had planned it was that they crossed that log. They were on one side of the creek. They crossed the log, and we were going to have them walk like for 3 or 4 miles, kind of in a circle and doing zigzags for like all day, and then come across the camp. And then at the end of the day, they had to come across the campsite again.
Right.
But the campsite from the night before was across the log.
Right.
So I was thinking, we can't send them off across that log again because they're going to know where they're headed. So I remember me and Dan went out there, we were like, okay, we're going to have to somehow have them cross this creek. So we went all the way down the creek looking for logs, and then me and Dan spent some time trying to throw rocks, rocks, and try if we could get a little bridge going, but no, and then finally me and Rick went out there and we were like, I mean, we were really going to do this. We were going to have like a rope. We're going to tie one rope on one side of the, on the one tree, and then just tie it across, and then tie another one a little bit above, like maybe 3 feet above the creek. And we were gonna buy these rubber pants, like those fishing pants, and we were gonna leave the fishing pants there. And we're gonna say, cross the, somebody get in the fishing pants, cross the creek, and then we're gonna tie a rope to the fishing pants. So then, once you get across, take the fishing pants off, hook them onto the top rope, and so finally we just decided, hey, why don't they just come across the same log? And we were like, oh, okay, that sounds good. That sounds like a good idea. But it would have been such.
Really did recognize that it was the same log.
Yeah.
I mean, in my directing notes, it was, I just put on there, I think Mike was in charge that day, because I switched them that day. Because Mike's character was really anxious to get out of there by that time in the story, so I made Mike take over the GPS system. So he was leading that whole day, instead of Heather, who had been leading up until then. So I told him, I said, go to waypoint 7 or whatever it was, and I don't know, I have my directing notes there, and I was something like, do you recognize, I can't believe that we ended up here. I can't believe it, you know what I'm saying? So he knew from the directing notes that they were going to end up somewhere where he was going to be able to react, and he saw it, and he was like, oh, it's the same fucking log, it's the same log. I would write the directing notes like, almost like their conscience, like their, it was like, themselves talking, almost like a little voice inside their head talking to themselves.
Right. Because Dan was telling me, when I first met Dan, it was like the first week, and it's like, yes, we're like the guardian angels, like sit behind a tree or something to be like.
Well, one of our original plans
was
that we were going to, each of us talk to each one of the actors individually and give them a predetermined point to go to at a certain time, and we really had it like anally marked out. Like, such and such a time of the day, you go southeast and you go northwest, and and your guardian angel will be there, and one will be Greg, me, or Ed, and we update you on what you need to do and give you directing decisions or whatever, adjust your character and all that stuff. But then we kind of refine that to just giving our input of these notes that they just go to the flag and pick them up, which is a lot easier. But they weren't to read each other's notes; they just pick them up, read them. And they had, enough instructions so they could kind of improv off of that until they get to the next waypoint. So it worked out pretty well.
It worked out really well.
We just had to kind of.
Because I remember when I saw the smoke signals thing, I keep on thinking that was a note. Smoke signals. Like I knew climb a tree.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the stuff they really came up on their own. I mean, they really did a good job on an amazing job actually, working within the parameters we set up for them and just creating shit on their own, and being that they're shooting it as well, and kind of directing themselves through this whole scenario we set up for them. They did an amazing job, considering they had to be on practically almost 24 hours a day. It's an incredible feat, I think, for an actor to have to continually be at that level, and they did a wonderful job. It was an amazing output from them. It gave us so much material to work with.
Yeah, they definitely did a great job, because it's like, there's a lot of complicated things that they had to do, I mean, there was like...
We had them climbing trees and going across walls.
And not only physically, but like kind of like Dan and I wrote this script, kind of like this outline of where we wanted them to be and emotionally and all this other stuff. And then I took whatever I would watch from the dailies that we could watch, because we didn't really watch that many dailies. There was just not enough time in the day. And I would kind of make up these ideas of like, okay, I got to take them this way, and I got to do this, and I got to do this. Plus, I would take Greg's logistical information and also put that on the directing notes. Like, you need to be here, and you guys need to. Like, a big problem we had in the first couple of days was that they wouldn't get rid of the milk carton. The crate that we gave them with the flag. So there's some scenes with the damn crate there, and I was like, you guys have got to get rid of the crate. As soon as you get your stuff, throw the crate, just get rid of it so it's not in any shots. And the flag also. And then we came with the idea of having them, not having the crate at the camp, having it somewhere else. But actually, even at the camps, they did that too. We just leave the tent where it's where we're supposed to be, and then they build it. But I mean, they did a lot of complex things, just emotionally and also logistically, that I didn't think. I mean, it was kind of my directions were pretty good, but it was like it really had to. I mean, they really had to be sharp and incredibly intelligent to interpret these notes and to remember to do certain things, and they all, I mean, everything went fine up until the house, and the house,
Yeah, we had to.
the problem with the house was that there was just too much.
Right.
I didn't want to tell him it was a house, but I needed to tell him, go up to the top floor and go down to the cellar. So, I ran into a problem because I was like, well, I don't want to tell him it's a house because I don't want him to expect anything. But I need him to go to the top floor. So I figured that through our audio, the audio cues we're giving them, they would be able to find their way around. But it just didn't work out that way. But I think it works fine, the way it is. But I mean, in that house thing, we were originally going to have, I mean, up until, I mean, you're talking about changes. You're talking about like when we got there, when they got here to Maryland in early October, Greg and Ben and Dan, the film was, I mean, we had there were so many changes. I mean, the idea that me and Dan had for that film at that time is completely different than what we started shooting, and also, the film would change. It changed as we were shooting it.
Right, you took Josh out instead of Mike.
Because we still hadn't come out. Yeah, we took Josh out instead of Mike, and we still hadn't come up with an ending.
Yeah, we were still trying to work.
We would wake up every morning and I'd be like, "Hey Dan, what do you think about this?" No. All right, we'll talk about it later. And I mean, we were coming up with all kinds of things, and so they did an incredible job, But I mean, even in that last scene, we were planning to have. We were going to have like 3 or 4 guys in those white suits again running outside the house.
Right.
So once in a while, as she would pan across a window, maybe you would get this like figure
Something
running through the
window
woods.
that you could freeze
so
or
you
stop.
could freeze or whatever and say,
But you couldn't find anybody to go out and play
by that time we were like, forget it. Fuck it. And we really wanted that one shot to work, but it didn't work. I don't know why it didn't work.
Yeah.
I have no idea why it didn't work.
That's a lot of trouble for it too.
We literally had Rick. First of all, the first guy was Dave that fell in the creek. The second night, it was Rick. And we had him from head to toes dressed in white. We had socks on his shoes, long johns, and like a turtleneck, and then, I don't know what he had on his head, but he had some kind of white thing on his head too, a shirt or something, and then tied in his hands and socks. And I mean, there were scenes where it was like, there was one scene that I retook. I was like, let's do another take, because I was convinced that Rick was going to come out like huge. I mean, they were running, and it's actually the take we used in the film, I think. And Heather screams, and Josh turns the camera and nailed Rick. I mean, Rick was coming down the hill, and I could have sworn that it was like 10, 15 feet away from the camera at that point. I mean, he lit Rick up. And I was like, it's going to look it's just going to look huge. It's just going to look, it's going to look like this guy running in the shot. So I retook it. I was like, nah, we got to, let's do it. Let's do it again. But none of that came out. There's not one damn frame of that white guy in any of the footage.
That's crazy.
And we did other takes too, without the actors. We
set it up.
Yeah, we set it up. We took the 60mm camera and held it kind of where Josh was holding it, and had Rick move across the woods at different distances. And I was like, okay, we got at least 2 or 3.
Right.
And nothing. I mean, I looked at that footage and I was like, nothing. I mean, it was amazing. I was like, nothing came out of Rick. It was just weird. I thought that the white, the reflective,
because she reads, man. She's
she's
15 yards ahead of him,
and
she's reading like
and you can see even ahead of her.
Yeah, you can see the trees and stuff ahead of her, and that same approximate distance to shoot Rick in all white, not a frame of it red. You're like,
yeah, because all we wanted was like, we kept them distant enough, so all we would read is maybe like like the upper body going by or something, something, just 1 or 2 frames of this figure, but nothing came out.
yeah.
You think that's be? Dun dun dun.
I keep thinking that I'm going to go through that raw stuff or
And
something.
find it.
Oh, there it is. Okay. I mean, it's on the end of this roll or something. But I've looked through that stuff frame for frame, man.
Yeah.
I've
I
seen
want
it.
to frame too.
But see, and I got ahead. I was just gonna ask about all the old stuff.
The old stuff we had planned?
Just all the stuff from 6 years ago when y'all were first together.
Mhm.
Like just the progression. I was gonna do it linearly, but we kind of bounced around. I mean, is there anything you can think of that you can add about just those first moments, or even the first couple
it was
of years?
just
The first couple of years after we came up with the idea or before?
Well, not before. Well, obviously we talked about the first 3 days, and you talked about what you came up with then. But is there anything like in the next couple of years that happened of interest? Like, did it just die, or I mean, did you know when you were talking about in those 3 days that this was something that you were going to shoot as a film?
Well,
I mean, did you decide that?
No, we didn't decide. We
No.
thought it was really cool, but we were like still trying to graduate and stuff.
Right.
Right.
And I was working on Gabriel's Dream, and Dan was, you were still trying to get Sarah's Morning made. So we had our own.
But did you say,
Things.
well, this is a good idea?
We
Because
thought- we
obviously
knew it
you
was a
came
good
back.
idea.
Yeah, we thought it
We
was
knew it was a good idea, and everybody we talked to were like, they were like, oh yeah, it's a great idea, and this and that.
And the main thing, I mean, aside from, I think, it being a good idea, it was a doable project.
Yeah, it was
for us to do
perfect for low
like
budget.
little or no money. It was something that we
Right.
could do and would look like we tried to scrimp by on $10,000. I mean, it was inherently low budget, had to look low budget.
Right.
And that's why the whole student filmmaker approach worked well, because, you know, anything that they shot out in the woods is supposed to look like a bunch of inexperienced filmmakers, so.
Right.
So we knew from that standpoint as well, also that there was, you know, a real possibility for us to do one day, you know. But like Ed was saying, he was involved with his project and I was kind of involved with mine, and he went back to Maryland, and it was always kind of on the back burner, you know, something that would be cool to do. And
But did y'all like call each other, hey, we should do the Blair Witch project?
well, actually,
Or the Witch film?
we were.
Yeah.
I mean,
He came, because that one time he came up for 4th of July,
Which
right.
was how long?
I was like, I guess 2 years ago?
No. Like the first, like, was it like a year afterwards? I mean,
Oh no, this
because
is like,
obviously-
this is after we graduated. I was in
Right.
Maryland, and he just came up, and
Yeah.
we were gonna. I mean, I remember he came up for like a week because I took the week off, and we were gonna do Gunther and Tell Us, and we were gonna do a bunch. And then one of them was like, yeah, we can try to write the script to the Witch movie.
Right.
And this is before my whole thing of like, all right, let's just do the damn Witch movie now. You know.
Yeah.
we
So
just
y'all
got-
had already always decided that you were going to do some kind of project together, because you know you like you had the black chapters. You're like, okay, let's do the black chapters. Let's do. So you were constantly talking about, well, we could get this together. We could get this together.
Well, I think we always like, you know, I think we have a mutual respect for each other's abilities and stuff like that, and we just, I mean, you know, we come up with good ideas together, you know, and the Blair Witch was just one of those things,
Right.
and so, you know, we knew, like after time went by, after a year or so went by, and I was, you know, working with, you know, at a production company and stuff like that, and Greg came back from LA, and Ed called up, he said, you know, we really want to get Blair going, and he said, I'm getting people down here excited about it and stuff like that, and I said, well, that's cool, let's, you know, that excites me too, let's get some money for this thing, and, you know, and that's kind of when I pitched Greg on the idea when he was working with me, and Greg just totally loved it, and he, like, within 2 or 3 days said, hey man, I'll put $5,000 in this thing if you guys want to get this thing going. So I called up Ed and said, hey, Greg's in for $5,000, man, at least we can get the ball rolling, you know? You fly up a couple times or drive up a couple times and hammer out this script outline, and that's what we did. I went up there a few times.
And then we started auditioning.
Yeah, and then we started auditioning, and which is a long, involved process. But what was a big kick in the pants is, this was like later on, but when I sent we did our investor reel, Greg and I put together this investor reel, which was nothing more than a bunch of compilation of shots and which material from, you know, videotapes and things like that. to kind of convey the idea, our concept, so we can have like meetings with dentists and doctors to hope raise some chump change. And so I had the opportunity working with John Pearson. I sent him that tape, and he bought it hook, line, and sinker. And he's from Maryland. You know, he's not, you know, what's up with this Blair Witch? And do you guys have the film? And we'd love to see the film. And I had to kind of stop him mid-sentence and say, hey, John, this is all fake. So he just laughed. And that's like kind of, for me, kind of really legitimized the thing. It's like, oh man, if a guy like John Pearson is kind of into this, you know, then we must be on to something that's halfway decent. So that kind of got us all kind of pumped up and going. And John put some money into it, which was very cool. And then later on, a little bit later on, we hooked up with Rob, and they kicked in some cash. So we had enough money to get phase 1 done.
Right.
That's basically go to Maryland, stay at Steph's and Ed's, and for a month and shoot out phase 1.
It was a month. Y'all stayed there for a month,
Yeah.
didn't you?
Yeah.
And how many people was it all crammed into that one place?
It was Ben, Greg, me, Ed, and Steph. You were there for a little while.
Right.
Adrian came by.
Adrian came by for a little while.
So about
And
5
then,
people.
and Lonnie and Rick running in and out. And,
And
you know, everybody else.
Equipment everywhere. It was pretty much a
And
nightmare.
the actors were kind of in there for a little while, so it was
I forgot it
pretty.
was for an entire month. For some reason, I remember this being like a week or
That house was trashed, man.
Yeah.
I mean, especially that downstairs was.
I remember coming in, it was just wall to wall with just stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, like you're watching, everybody's kind of curled up and you'd watch the footage of the day, and it was like, yeah, let's navigate.
Yeah, part of it was
our way
watching the
through.
footage. Part of it was like, I mean, a big part of my duty was out just shadowing the actors, man. I was like, almost every day I was like trailing them, and between like setting up base camps and stuff like that, I was like just keeping an eye on the actors, because we never wanted them to be really by themselves. You know, we needed one of us to be out there to make sure if anybody broke an ankle or got snake bitten or something, there would be one of us with a walkie or something. I don't know
what
what
were
good
you
we'd
talking
do, but you know.
About SAG. You know, like all the discussions you had, if we had to get SAG actors, we would have broken every
Oh yeah, I
rule
mean,
in the...
yeah, we would have broken every penalty known to man. It's like,
Yeah, we would have, I mean, just overtime.
Yeah,
It
they
was
would have
like
put us in
it was a
SAG jail or
continuous- It was a continuous shoot. By the end of the shoot, they would have been making like $1,000 an hour.
yeah, that's probably about what they'd be up to. But
With fines and shit.
yeah,
And then just like the whole safety thing, I mean, we got really lucky. I mean, we've all talked about this, how lucky everything in this film has been just like, you know, this incredible luck. But, I mean, you know, nobody did anything. I mean, like, like Dan was saying, if one of the actors would have broken their ankle out there and really would have not have been able to walk, it would have been at least 2 or 3 hours before we could have gotten somebody out there for him.
Right.
If even that, because I mean, they were always always had radios, and they were always, you know, radio contact with the base camp. We always made sure of that. But the base camp itself, you know, somebody would have had to gotten into a car because there was no cell phone. There's no cell phone coverage out there.
I mean, there was one base camp that on like halfway through the shoot where, I mean, it's the base camp was hard enough to get to, but then getting to their camp was, you know, it was a 30-minute hike through the woods, man, and at night even was
So
twice as long.
If somebody would have gotten hurt, by the time that an ambulance and somebody would have gotten out there with a stretcher, it would have been like 2 or 3 hours at least.
Yeah.
You know, you could, I mean, if you really get hurt, you can die in 2 or 3 hours. I mean, you know, you can have permanent damage. So we just got really lucky that nobody bled to death or nobody got hurt. No equipment was damaged.
Especially with like the house at the end, running up and down those stairs and...
Yeah. Well, the house, I mean, like, when I first started scouting the house, I was real careful walking up, but I mean, after a while, that house is still in pretty good shape.
Yeah,
We covered all the holes,
Right.
and
But still just run around.
yeah,
You could have had somebody that fly
all
up the
the-
stairwell.
yeah, the running around was kind of, but you know, the only one that really ran was Mike.
Right.
And you know, it was just.
Yeah, I mean, not only running around, but running around after like being in the woods for 7 days, you know, and hungry and tired, because they were tired, man. We woke them up every night. You know, at 2 or 3 in the morning, we'd have to tromp out there, set up our little thing. We tried desperately to be as quiet as possible, but you know, we woke them up and to pull off the gag. And the one night when we were out there, when we're running around their camp, and you're hearing all those branches breaking and all. That's Greg, myself, and Ed, and everybody. We're running through the woods in total darkness with our little red lamps on, and we could have easily broken our leg or something, man. I mean, we're just running through, we have goggles and everything, but still, they easily.
And the goggles didn't work for like one day, and then after that, the goggles, they were
fogged
you couldn't
up.
see anything.
Yeah,
I mean, at night with goggles on, you couldn't see anything, so you'd have to take your goggles off.
Yeah.
But I remember that the second night where they hear noises, which is where they hear the most noises, is I mean, I was over on one side and Greg and Dan were on the other side. We just started running around and stuff, and it got to the point where I was like, they were pointing their light at me, and I was just trying to get away so that I wouldn't be in the shot, they wouldn't see me. And there was a fallen tree there, and I was just like, just running through this tree. And then I would just fall, and then just sit there for a little while, until the light, somebody else, took the attention. I remember the first night, because the whole idea was that we thought we were going to be able to like listen to them talk and monitor their performances, but we're like 60 or 70, even more. We're like 100 feet away from them in the woods. It's raining, and I remember that second day we were like,
this ain't gonna work.
This ain't working. Let's go home and eat, or go to sleep or whatever. But the first night that we bothered them, which is like the second night in the woods, I was like, okay, I want to hear the performances, so I'm gonna get 2 rows of trees from their tent. And I was like laying there, and I distinctly remember Ben running by the tent, making all this noise, and I was like, all right, I guess it's begun. Then the lights turn on in the tent, and as soon as those lights turn on, I'm like, I gotta get out of here. There's no way I'm gonna stay hidden. So I'm like backing up as quickly as I can without, and then they come out and I'm just like ducking, and I'm like literally like 25 feet from them. I'm like, so then I just start running, and then at the end there, I'm like, because we had walkie-talkies, and I had the headset on because I was supposedly gonna direct the action. There's no directing there, just like people running around. Right. And I remember, I don't know if anybody was monitoring me or what, but I was like, make some noise because they're following me, man. They're following me, whispering, and they were following me. I mean, at the end, they were just following me. I was like, I need somebody to make some noise behind, on the other side because they're following my ass. And it was actually kind of scary, actually. It was kind of creepy.
It was creepy. It was weird in a way because there's a part of you that is wanting to monitor what they're doing and their action and all that to kind of get an idea of their dynamic and all that good stuff. But then there's also a part of you that you don't want to be seen, because you're trying to maintain this element of realism that they're the only ones in the woods. And God forbid you get seen, man. You're like, oh my God, you're running and you're diving into creek banks and stuff like that to avoid being seen. And so many times, I remember one time, man, they cross a creek and they're on their way back, and I'm kind of doing my shadowing thing, just kind of monitoring them or whatever, and I'm staying up just ahead of them because they're supposed to follow to the next waypoint, so I know they're going to follow this particular trail, and I'm staying just ahead of them to keep within earshot of them and eyeshot of them, and they're booking, man, and I'm just like, it's difficult to keep them, in your ear and eye shot, and then yet not be seen. I'm in full camo and stuff like that, and I know I swore they saw me a couple of times, like darting across and and jumping, stuff like that, and then they'd walk by me, and then I'd like hide behind them. It's just like they probably thought we were complete morons.
Yeah.
But it's like playing army, man. It's just like I can't let the enemy see me or anything. It's pretty weird.
That would just be great footage of like this stalking of the director. It's like, here I am, this is the director, you see, here goes the director, hit the ground.
Yeah, there's been so many times that you thought you had seen or were going to get seen. I thought for sure, man, when they were coming across that log the very first time, Neil and I were there. Neil was shooting behind the scenes, and I'm sitting there kind of keeping an eye on him, and I'm just like watching him. And this is like the first real moment when they're crossing this log with all their pack and all their gear. It's in the film, and I'm thinking, God damn, if one of them fall in the water, man, this film is over right here and now. So if they get across the log, then I think we're kind of home free, walk-wise, you know. And I'm sitting there and I'm swearing to God they're seeing me. They look right at me. It's like, got to see me. They've got to be seeing me. But then when I went over on this side, I looked over at him and I'm like, I'm trying to find Neil. I'm looking for Neil. And then I said, Neil, did you shoot any of that stuff? Yeah, I was right there by the side of the thing, you know. Oh, well, then they must not have seen me either, because I couldn't pick him out from anything, man. Because the camouflage is pretty good, if you don't know where to look.
You want to come in and talk about the Blair?
No, I'm gonna go home.
Okay,
See you
great.
tomorrow. See you tomorrow.
All right,
See you,
great.
Greg.
See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Probably.
So I was pretty amazed at, you know, how well the camouflage really does work. When you're not really looking for somebody, they could be just standing next to a tree or something like that, and you blend right in. Especially at night, it's impossible. Impossible.
That concludes this interview.
Okay, I have to get home anyway.
Like the professor being a part of the documentary, but not the documentarian.
Who do you think should be the documentarian?
We are. It's an in search of documentary where it's an objective eye of God, omnipotent, you know, documentary where the documentarians are never seen or heard. My reason being is actually aesthetic and not logistical. It's that I think that if we've got this fake documentary and then we're faking another documentary with a character that we're also creating, then it just becomes kind of incestuous in the terms of it's kind of like they're both repetitions of the same approach. You know what I'm saying? No? Yes.
No, I know what you're saying. The whole thing about the professor, for at least for me, was that it would have a central figure throughout the film that is at least like just for the people to like kind of put their emotions into.
I think you could still. I think that.
Do you ever see
Clash of the Titans?
Paradise Lost?
I haven't seen it yet.
See, Paradise
Fine
Lost.
movie, by the way.
Paradise
That
Lost
little
was shot
Terry
that way.
Hamlin in it.
It's shot. The documentarians aren't in the film, but the characters are there. The characterizations are there. I mean, the professor would be one of the characters and would be one of the main characters. It's just that the professor wouldn't have been the one that made the film.
Yeah, to me it's not a big deal. That's not a big deal. Because I mean, most documentaries are done that way anyway.
All right.
It becomes much easier for us if
That's pictures.
if we decide to do the 70s things, which the 70s thing answers a lot of questions.
And the 70s, yeah, the 70s thing becomes statistically and like all the unanswered questions, like you said, it takes care of a lot of them because first of all, you can make them from a film school that has since, you know, folded or whatever.
Right.
You can say things that, you know, might have been true back then, but they're not true now, you know what I mean? And also it saves us just it just gives us like a big barrier between now and that footage, you know what I mean? Where anything out of the
one thing about it that is not that big of a deal is that, I mean, I'm assuming that that the film and stuff is not found until the 1990s.
Well, yeah.
So this stuff is buried under the ground for.
Well, you have to look at it like, well, how is that gonna?
Why don't you have it like this? Why don't you have it like the film was found, or the film was sent to the professor, but he never did anything with it, and then us as documentarians,
We find it.
we find
No,
we
but see-
find a professor, it's like, I have this all the time.
Well, the thing about the 70s thing is like, to me, it's not really a decision of like that we can make right now. It's a decision where we have to look at it realistically and say, can we pull it off?
what I'm saying? I mean, the stuff in the woods can be pulled off. You can find old hiking stuff, and plus, even if you can't find it, you can find stuff that looks like that. That at least you tear the brands off, and you know, who the hell's gonna be looking at the footage? Oh, that backpack was made in 1984 or whatever. The problem is that the whole footage, like the first 2 days when they're meeting people and they're on the road, and sooner or later we're gonna have to give them, we're gonna have to have a money shot where you see 3 or 4 cars from the 70s, because if we avoid that, then people are gonna know, look, there's no way to shot in the 70s. Why don't they have any pictures of any cars? They only have that one car they're sitting in, and luckily they don't show any other cars on the road or next to them or parked. You know what I'm saying? But
I mean, it limits us. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't have as much problem with the video thing as you do. I like the mix of video and film. I mean, in fact, my original impression of the video of the film was that the genius thing about it was that my first impression when he first told me first night was that, man, you could go out into the woods and shoot this first section completely on video and shoot the entire first section for $5,000 and have it finished. And then you could go and show it to investors and say, look, da-da-da-da-da.
yeah, but to me it wasn't, I mean, it wasn't that. To me, like, just, I don't see it working on video as well as on film.
And also, the scary parts were they run out of film, but the Niagara, the audio keeps going. You can't do that with audio.
With video.
With video,
Yeah.
because it's there already. So
Yeah, there's a couple of elements that we really wanted to put in there that you just can't get away with the video. But it's not even that. To me, it's just.
It's
I
the
don't
look.
know. I mean, it would have to be. I would have to test it. You know.
it wouldn't look that bad, the night stuff, because video would look kind of grainy too.
Yeah, I mean, I think the video has the kind of impact of like the immediate realism that you get from comics, the Rodney King meeting, or you're just used to seeing realistic views type of stuff presented in video. So you see it on video, shot in kind of a handheld style. It adds. I just am I mean, and a lot of this is me kind of devil's advocate, but like shooting on film, black and white, handheld, I can see like, okay, maybe it's going to look too much like The Evil Dead. You know, their handheld stuff going through the woods. You know, I don't know.
I mean, the film or the video, it's like we have to test it out here. I just thought that the whole black and white, grainy.
You sold me on the black and white film thing. No matter if it's modern or the 70s or whatever, but it's do you dislike the video stuff enough to make it in the 70s?
No, I don't dislike it at all because, like, you know, we could do some cool things with it.
No, I think the video would do some good.
Yeah, I
Plus, we've got 100 more hours of footage to work with.
Yeah, I know, but I just,
Plus, I like the idea. I like the visuals of her with her video camera, maybe
Filming him.
filming John as he's running up with the film camera. And we cut the film camera.
yeah,
What scene?
I have no problem with that at all. I just have, I mean, that to me works fine. What I'm talking about is, making the video the main footage.
No.
Like, I don't even really want to have to get to a point where we're even seeing something weird on video, or maybe I want to see like.
But I think some of this stuff
has to be on film.
But some of this stuff I think would work better. Some of the weird stuff I think would work better on video, like the idea of like of a glowing figure walking like a quarter of a mile away in the woods at night. I think like the way that sources out on video, it's just like this little white,
like a little star.
Yeah, moving.
But see, to me that would work, but I don't know. I just have to test it. To me, video, even feature shot on video, it just they
But that's a
That's-
feature.
Yeah,
This is a documentary.
Yeah, but even like eyewitness video and stuff like that, though, it adds this sense where it's like, I don't know, it's just like,
Well, we
I don't know, it's not scary, but I could be wrong. I could be
not that we
completely
haven't
wrong.
agreed, but we come to the conclusion that it's fine doing both, video and film.
Yeah.
The black and white mostly like shooting like when it's the hand out of the water or something like that. But then like they're playful things like down.
Instead of fucking around, and then in the beginnings, like Greg brought up a good point. Like if they were get up in the middle of the night and hear something, they would turn the video. Jay would turn the video camera on immediately and say, "Start, get the camera ready," and you have video immediately of her getting out and looking in the woods.
Right.
You can't really see anything, and then you see John come out with a film camera. And he's like, and as soon as you click it, you cut to his shot.
Right.
Oh, no.
See, the way I think it's gonna be real tough. We're trying to anticipate what footage is gonna have the most impact on certain shots and certain scenes before it's shot.
Yeah.
It's like,
No, but
we schedule what needs to be shot on
No,
film.
I understand.
and then
But
just
see,
let
to
the
me,
video roll.
what I wanted to avoid, and what I told Steph, is that I want to avoid shots of people with just cameras. That's all you're going to see in this film. So, especially when Bill disappears, when the sound guy disappears, all you're going to have is him. You're going to have shots of him with the film camera on her videotape. You're going to have her with the video camera. I wanted to avoid that. Because when you're behind a video camera, you're into taping it. I wanted to just, God damn, did you see that? What the fuck was that? And her walking through and stuff,
Yeah, but-
and not worrying about the video camera.
Well, I mean, but if you go with your thing of her basic drive being to document as much as she can document, she could just have this video camera and hold it like this,
Or even down, even down here.
She's just recording what's going on. So she's kind of almost like surveillance. I mean, they're both looking around and being worried or looking after whatever they're looking for, but he's kind of like on standby, ready to, turn the camera on in anticipation of something happening.
I think we could work with both.
Well, if we can work with both, then I don't see any reason to make it the 70s.
Yeah.
And add a bunch of, even though I think it would totally work, right?
Yeah.
But I think it just would add a lot of money to the budget.
All right, I gotta head out.
Have a good time, Stephanie.
See you, Steph.
You guys be gone when I get back?
Probably. We're gonna leave late Sunday night.
I'm gonna go get the rest of it.
You guys just gonna hang out and take naps?
Yeah, we need to take a nap.
You guys can use the bed upstairs.
Bye, Steph.
Bye.
Okay, I'm just going to throw this idea out because it just came to me. What if, and I know this is a completely different take on the whole deal, what if you got up to play the documentary thing out fully until the very last scene? And then what if you did do a fully realized special effect laden ending, still from the perspective of one camera, and that was the end of the film?
What do you mean by special effects?
Well, that you do see the Blair Witch, that you do see what's his name get killed real time,
Alright.
and make that transition into video. And somehow there's some sort of dramatic ending with the video as well, and that's the end of the film. That's the payoff. But you're obviously giving away
Right.
that
This is a big
this is
mistake.
not real.
That's originally how I thought you guys were going to end it. That's
Well, like the witch comes out.
well, just that there was this big payoff at the end.
Well, we were gonna end it with Jane getting molested somehow and John then dying. So I mean, it's like
You don't really see like the camera falls on the ground. It's just recording on the ground, and you see feet and shit.
Not really falling, because I think that's like a cliche, but I mean, the camera just, like what, like originally, like when we were first thinking of it, it's like when we were thinking of that idea where the camera just moves somewhere that it's impossible for a human to carry it. Like all of a sudden the camera is down there, and all of a sudden it's just pushed out, and you just see it going down the hall. You know, something like something is pulling it through the air or dragging it or something like that, where it just, you know, it just puts the image in your mind like shit. Something grabbed that camera that you know is not. Or you can do this simple and like I think we have to incorporate kids into this somehow.
Well, go ahead.
Like, because of the whole thing that she took the kids up and sacrificed them and stuff, and now they're her little, you know, or whatever they are. First of all, like noises in the woods. I think it'd be creepier if it was like little footsteps and shit instead of.
Yeah, I like playing the whole kid angle.
Yeah, don't make it like a Children of the Corn or anything like that, but
Just like a kid's scream versus,
Yeah.
you know.
or just a little, or imagine like me and Greg were talking about. We already talked about this. Just having a speaker like 50 yards somewhere where you really cannot see it, and even if you know, and you just play a kid's crying, but at that level, like we test the audio level, so it's not loud like. Holy shit, it's a big kid. Like a real kid would, you know, you can barely hear it, but it's a kid crying in the woods or something.
Yeah.
That would be, you know, something that we could do. And also in the house, like what I was thinking was that they go into this house, it's completely deserted, there's shit everywhere. And, you know, what would be creepy as shit, man, is that everything that, all the sacrificial shit is like at, you know, at like 5 feet and under, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Where it's just like little kids in there, you know what I'm saying? And then have something where they're downstairs and they hear something, they hear a bunch of steps upstairs, like little kids running, and you know, something is, you know, and you can hear it coming down the steps or something.
One of the ideas that we had thrown out for the ending would be that you end up with just Jane by herself. You mostly just, like you said, just at the very last instant, you know, it becomes POV just through the video camera that she has left. If John's been taken out, just got the video camera, that she gets hit, the camera hits the ground, there's a flash of movement in front of it, and then it stops, then it blinks out. And it would be one of the things where in video replay, the flash of movement that you see is Jane's hand, her arm like hitting the ground in front of the camera, and then another hand reaches in and pulls her hand away, and it's like the hand of like a 4 or 5-year-old kid.
Yeah, Dan told me that. That's cool.
You know, and that's just like you
And
got
you just see it's like
3 frames of that, and that's the final frame. It's
You know,
like
there's just a little hand, you know. That'd be fucked up.
It'd be creepy. Yeah.
You know, that's the final thing.
You know, another idea I was thinking of, I mean, it's just an idea, was that after that final roll, let's say we see the kid or something, there's certain shots in the camera that, like, they don't know who they're shot, they're exposed, but they don't know if Jane was doing it, or, you know what I'm saying? Like stills of just like the room, you know. Just, you know, and then they cut and it's somewhere else. No, the cameras, somebody just rolled it off.
Oh, the film
You know,
camera.
something, you know what I'm saying? That'd be kind of creepy.
Want to say that again?
Like,
It's
let's
just
say-
totally innocuous, like
just
non-threatening.
Exactly, just like after the footage falls and the camera turns off and you see the little kid's hand, they say let's say there's 35 more feet of film. There's 2 more minutes of film. Let's say 2 more minutes of film of these shots of just like in the house, like you know they have the candles and it's just like this, you know, it's just rolling. Nothing's happening.
Imagine a shot of a poignant artifact relating to the kids, you know, some toy or something like
But
that.
just
Or it's just a
shot.
still of a
It's
toy,
not-
but they never saw the toy. You know, it's like,
Right.
let alone the whole house wasn't found, but it's
Right.
just like a teddy bear, you know, that's just a bad
That's
example.
That's something else.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah,
still
just
like-
2 minutes.
Right.
One
Right.
one thing.
Well, what if it was like something like thing cuts out and then there's like they explain, and then there's this, you know, unexplained, unnarrated
No
footage,
sound, nothing.
and it's just like as if a kid took the camera, and obviously
Walking
these
around.
spirits or whatever have watched them use this equipment. They know what it is. You know, they know how it works. They know what they do. And just imagine if a kid was holding the camera and going and like playing outside. So you got this video imagery of just like a POV of a kid like playing with this camera, like running around in circles and seeing the
that's
trees
what I
and
was
stuff
thinking.
like
Yeah,
that.
just like a kid like holding the camera
Yeah.
down here. I mean, the camera would be like maybe 1.5 foot above the ground, just walking. You know, you just see the this through the house and outside, and that'd be kind of creepy, man.
Wouldn't the dropping of, when she drops the camera, wouldn't it break or something?
It might break. I mean, we might have something where like the last footage is like this gate is skipping. You know, that's skipping. The film is skipping the gate.
It's too bad there's wasn't some way, because I don't think they had a time code video or something. It'd be pretty cool. Like you got maybe some of the video footage inside the house where they're walking inside the house and they're going in a room, like this, and then all of a sudden it cuts to the kid, just walking outside, through the bushes, they get back into the house, and they're like, but the time code on the camera is like it's the next frame,
Continuous.
It's a continuous time code. Real-time time code, so if they would have had to in an instant blinked outside, walked that shot off and blinked back inside, which would have been impossible. I mean, that's one of the analysis they made. It's this continuous real-time time code, timestamp, whatever.
Right.
We don't know where this shot came from. It was like it was an insert edit or something.
Man, what if you had the idea with the little kid? You see the camera moving, and all of a sudden it just he sets it up in front of something. Like to give who did this thing, you know what I'm saying? Like he just sets it up, you just see the camera and it sets up and it's just in this room and there's something on the floor or something way that he wants to show and then nothing. You never see the kid
right.
But you
I'm
see something.
here to tell you that
You do not come back. Do not. Some little midget kid. This is your last warning.
We're never gonna see the kid's face.
No, you just see that. I mean, you don't even see if it's a kid. You just see this camera just,
Then that would
you just see something like the
that
bottom
would
of the frame.
That would make the
Carries it
documentary go further, because then the professor, whoever sees this stamp or whatever the kid, wouldn't you want to?
Yeah, when you go back, when you think of police.
No, the police back.
Well, that's the big mystery.
Yeah,
at the
the
end
house
is that
is
the
never
house is
been found.
never there. That one of the experts needs to be a guy who has gone through and taken the video footage and assembled it with a computer, and we can do this, man, with a computer thing, and
So we've got,
he's taken the video and he's
feet
oriented
on
it.
the
He says, okay,
left
I know
and-
at this point they're on this road, and they're pointing in this direction. And so what he does is he takes the video and he correlates what he sees on the video to a map, to a topographical map, and he tracks them because they're lost. So what he's trying to do is correlate where the house would be. So he's like, the house has to be, there's no way they could have moved any further than this area. This 1 square mile area, that house has to be in that area. And you just have a flyby, a helicopter. Stock footage of a helicopter.
I'm not sure where it's at,
There's
right?
nothing there. There is no house. The house doesn't exist.
Rick.
What if, because I like it having a through line. I think one possible payoff that might allow us to be more subtle in the visual payoff that we get in terms of location and what happens to them at this house or whatever, is that I like your idea of there being some type of through line in terms of what is happening to the kids, what is happening to the filmmakers, in that there is a preparation for a sacrifice or whatever. So what if the final thing, so we take all the clues that we've been exploring in the film, which is the triangle of leaves, the scarecrow figures, the carving on the tree, whatever else elements. Let's say those 3 elements, the triangle of leaves, the scarecrow figure, and the symbol carved in the tree. And on the dirt is, a triangle created by 3 little things of debris. One of those scarecrows in the middle, or 3 of those scarecrows in the middle, and that symbol, written with a kid's finger in the dirt. And the final explanation from this occult expert is that, this is, now I don't know if you want to get this tangible with it, but maybe that's our job as the filmmakers, to give voice to this theory, which this occult expert has, in saying that the spirits of these children, the tormented ghosts of these sacrificed children, are trying to spiritually cleanse this area. And to do it, they have to use their own, to free their own souls, they have to use their own kind of witchcraft. And this all points to a ceremony that they sacrificed to 3 filmmakers to, spiritually cleanse this area so that they can release their own souls. And that's what that symbol means. Those are the 3 stages that they ran them through. Surrounding them with that triangle of leaves is step 1. The exposing them to those scarecrow figurines is some other kind of, JoJo magic thing that they do. And the symbols carved into the tree is the final, step in the spell. And then after that, once they kill the 3 filmmakers, their spell has been cast and they're free. Because they've been damned by the witch. And when the witch sacrificed them, they don't go to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
They're, in limbo or whatever.
Do they have to kill, maybe they can kill the filmmakers, not to set their own souls free, but because the filmmakers they're like interfering with what they're trying to do, so they kind of have to kill them just because if not they're going to muck up.
The thing is that the rescue, I don't mean to interrupt.
That's okay.
We have to determine if we're in search of a resolution on this.
No, I mean, but see,
do we want to leave things open-ended to?
No, but what I think, what I got kind of Greg thing, the example is that maybe you don't go into it in the film. Like, maybe somebody that doesn't come out and explain it in the film, but us as filmmakers, that's what we want. That's what's happening. Because we had to create these kids, we had to create what they're doing. So this is what they're doing. Whether we showed it, whether the audience sees that in the film, doesn't matter. We could have some expert at the end when you're seeing photos of the 3 filmmakers, like when they're when they're meeting, about to leave.
Yeah.
Some sentimental music or whatever, some finishing music.
But you know,
might have one of them going, might have the occult expert going on, maybe, these tortured spirits of souls of these kids back in the 1800s needed something to cleanse them, and they used this.
Well, you know how Leonard
somebody to
Nimoy
take their place.
When he does the summary at the end of the documentaries and stuff, he's like, UFOs. Could it be a visitation from another world? You know how they do that?
Yeah.
Right.
Could it be the sacrificial blah, blah, blah? Or they present those questions at the end and they just let you decide, Something I was not understanding. Because I was thinking this, instead of seeing all the symbolism, contrived when they get there, that, upon later analysis of some of the footage in the house, that you may see, like, an icon of one of those scarecrows, like, on a distant wall or something like that ties the house into what the shit they were seeing. Maybe even one of those scarecrows or a stack of them where you just catch the corner of the frame, you just see them like in the corner of a room, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That kind of links it up, which is still blurry and not 100%, but it's like that icon is definitely is unmistakable from what they saw in the
What I think would be scary is that they go downstairs and there's dozens of these scarecrows hanging from the ceiling, just everywhere.
Right.
Just because what I originally thought the scarecrow would be cool is that they wake up one morning and they walk a little bit and they're kind of surrounded by them. They kind of
like in Seven when they had all the little Christmas tree things hanging from the ceiling. You remember that scene?
Yeah, that's cool. And what I was thinking is that they're using this scarecrow thing as something to scare away any kind of good spirits. Like, stay away from us. These are our prey. These are our. And those scarecrows are kind of just. And this house is just like the last step. They want to make sure that nothing gets in here.
Right.
And they can help these kids.
Something like that would be good at tying it together, and also posing the question, is this kind of some kind of spiritual sacrifice, but not answering?
Right. And the one thing that we could do with those types of questions is we could have 2 or 3 different opinions of what those.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
2 or 3
You might
different
tell them,
occult
you tell them about that guy and the
experts.
dog.
Oh,
You
yeah.
gotta tell them about that shit. That's great.
Thought about one of the characters could be like, imagine this shot, you know, like little too hot, you know, like a quick grab, like you're interviewing somebody. It's like, okay, we got to go out and get him going into his house. You know, so you go out, so just little overexposed maybe shot of like this totally, you know, bland, poorly maintained lower middle class house with the yard not quite taken care of, and this like beat up car kind of pulls into the driveway, and this guy gets out, and he's like a big kind of just poorly maintained guy, you know, like some weird medallion hanging around his neck and greasy hair, and he gets out of his car and closes the door, and his little dog hops out with him, like a little chihuahua or something. It's kind of the guy like goes to the thing and opens the door, and the dog's kind of like sniffing around the yard and goes in, you know, and you start the voiceover like as the dog is going to the house. And this is the icon from the front. You cut to the inside of the guy's house, and it's just like floor to ceiling with like occult stuff hanging from the. He's like this self-styled occult expert, you know, with a medallion.
Big, you know, greasy open shirt.
Yeah,
and shit, you know.
Complete loser.
Yeah, complete
His
loser.
fingernails are too long, you know, like almost shaped like women's, you know. And he offers the most off-the-wall interpretation of what they're doing. It's just kind of like a little humorous, you know, semi-humorous, because sometimes he says some stuff that's like, you know, he's got a lot.
No, yeah, I think we need that too. I think we need a little, you know, because any documentary is a little.
Well, they always have like that's like bring back Paradise Lost, which is they have that kind of balance where some of the characterizations in there are funny, scary funny. Like this guy is so whacked out that he could be dangerous, but yet you can't help but just like, you know. So something like this where it's not contrived funny, but the characterization is so deep and enriching that you're like, whoa. I mean, this guy's thought awfully hard about all of this for whatever reason, you know. And then like the imagery is great, you know, with like Greg is saying, you're a little slightly overexposed, and then we cut to little cutaways of the dog.
Like while the guy's talking,
you know,
cutaways of the dog.
Yeah, and shit like that, you know. That would be cool. And then, you know, B-roll of like cult shit on the mantelpiece, and you know.
And, shit. Like bombs.
And that would be the type of thing. I mean, imagine if we had some 35mm gear, we're shooting a documentary, and there's like fucking honker graphics bongs and things and stuff. You're just like, gotcha. Keep going. You know,
and this guy's just going on. He's like, and they need to be aware that the spirits of Cut Dog are everywhere. You need to be encaged. You know, we just keep cutting that little fucked up dog, like cut it in the room and shit, as his voiceover is going on.
And then that would be cool.
It would be genius. So, the more we talk about this, the more exciting it gets to me. But it also underscores how much fucking work we have to do.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to decide this weekend, before we walk away from here, what the fuck we're doing.
You mean like story-wise or?
Story-wise, because we're at the point where we can't start moving forward until we have the story. Like, if we're gonna have a house, then, you know, Matt and Rick's #1 priority becomes finding that damn house. And really, realistically speaking,
we could use this apartment, just dress it up a little
you know,
bit.
and if it, I mean, and I know you're talking about a basement and all that kind of stuff, which is awesome, but we could feasibly build it.
Even a house.
Yes, we could build it, but we would have to, obviously, we'd have to scale it down to a shack.
No, but I don't see it as a house either. I kind of see it as like a shack with a cellar.
Like a cabin almost.
Yeah, like a cabin, because there's no way this lady out there in the woods, for whatever reason it is, like let's say it's a witch's house or something.
Yeah.
She's not gonna build like a colonial mansion out there. It's like maybe 2 rooms upstairs, if even that, and the main room. And then there's steps going down. There's this thing, and there's like another little hole with like rock steps going down to this guy, where they do all the sacrifices.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. Maybe there's just like a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
But what we need to do is if we build it, that'd be great, man. But if we build it, we have to do some serious, excavating.
Well, and if we build it, we got to put it in the budget to build it.
Well, if we build it, I'm
They
thinking
will
I'm talking interiors, that might be something best left for the stage, maybe.
Well,
I mean, how you gonna build a house out in the middle of the woods with a basement? I mean,
no. I don't think the basement is feasible for us to make. I don't think that any regional park is going to let us bring a little bobcat out there and be like, oh, just going to film a little fake documentary. And that's another decision. I am really in love with the concept of having Dan anally. But
We all are.
at the same time.
I think we should find a location.
Now,
Building a house is out of the question of this budget.
That's what I'm saying.
We
We
spent
spend-
$1 million, and it's this is all hydraulically operated. They're running out of planks. Hey, man, we should have.
Sections of the wall. As I run down the hall.
So we funny shit, man, is we shoot it in a fun house. What is this? Whoa! Look at this. What's going on here? And then the room is shit.
And right at the very end, the resolution is already away from the house.
It blows up. They die.
They have like 4 or 5 angles. How the hell they get that?
Like the house goes from exactly like 4 different times. 4 different
Yeah. Greg was thinking like if we're gonna find a house, we have to build it.
Right.
And then I was saying, well, we should just shoot it in like a fun house. Whoa, the floors. Like,
There's a mirror.
One of those, one of those rolling tunnels. Whoa! Skulls and shit tied.
One of the road things that you climb up without falling off.
Yeah.
But I'm in love with the real-time concept. I really like that character immersion thing where we put them into the environment and we run them through the scenario real time.
Yeah.
But we have to, decide now if that's going to be feasible. That's obviously not going to be feasible if we're going to shoot here and we find a house and the house is somewhere else.
Well, obviously the house is going to be somewhere else.
Because it's not there. So that's what I'm saying. If we can scale back what happens in the house, building it would not be that expensive. We can add another $1,000 into the budget for that. And you're talking about something that, if you go with what the story was, that an old woman could have built.
What if instead of a house, you have a situation where it's like
big lean-to,
or like one of those like prefab houses,
trailer.
It's a cardboard box. Oh my God! Yeah. Your refrigerator box. No, what I'm talking about is something where it's like. And you could build it. It's like some kind of
sphere.
teepee. Like
Well, a weird teepee type thing wouldn't be, some sort of like unusual structure, like half teepee, half lean-to, part lean-to, part teepee, part shack,
When you say she built it, it's got to be more like a shack. It's got to freaking build a nice.
No, I never thought of it as a nice house with a porch or anything.
Oh, you're talking about going upstairs and going downstairs.
No, I thought it was that have a top floor and then have just a basement with dirt floors.
That she just did.
That's
killed.
Yeah, or something.
But big enough to hold 4 people. 3
No, big enough to hold, yeah. I mean, I imagine the biggest the house could be is like this level right here. That's the biggest it could be. I mean, that's too big. And they would just walk in, the stairs are down, and
They
they
have
go
windows
down.
in the back like this one.
And they have these fake windows.
See, then
I mean,
the thing
all
with
that, if you take them out of that real-time scenario, all that becomes relatively easy. It becomes expensive, but easy. We can build, you fake the stairs going down. I mean, we do it we shoot it on a stage. You know, we elevate the set this high, we have fake steps, and then we build another set with the steps coming down.
That house shit, if we do that house shit, it's gotta be,
But see,
it's
but
gotta be set up on a stage or something like that.
But
There's
it's-
no way we can set up those shots and shoot them right in real time. It's
What
just,
shots?
you know, just have them, you know, do the door thing right. Because we're gonna wanna review that footage, right? You know, after it's shot, and does it look right? And that's gonna be
You
the
just
one
do-
section that's really gonna be.
You do 2 or 3 passes.
I think the thing of
Still
it
makes
being,
another
I think
scenario.
that it works better within the context of what it's supposed to be if it's something out in the woods that we see one continuous shot of them, no tricks, no nothing, because none of those tricks work. Of, ooh, well, I just happened to back into him, ooh, and we're somewhere else, you know, we're somewhere else, you know, so you've got people are way too savvy. Even the average TV viewer is too savvy to those tricks. They know what.
Yeah, and the thing that I wanted to avoid was like, because we're going to be using the end of the roll tricks a lot, like when we use the film footage.
Hopefully, we won't be using many of those.
Well, we're going to use you use the roll ended here, and we start the next roll, and they're inside already. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's too.
At a key point like that, that would be the point where everybody's like, "Well, fuck this, man!" You get them that far, and they're like, "Oh, this is fake."
That's too convenient. It's fake, man! Let's get out of here!
It's like one shot.
Riot. There's a riot at Sundance.
One roll ends and then the next roll starts like in Vegas. Like,
The wrong roll.
It's like the alien autopsy. I love how they got lens flares just at the point where they needed to set up a new gag with the dummy.
I never saw that.
Lens
man.
flare. Oh, it's so fake.
Or they would go in and it's out of focus.
Yeah, it's so
But
fake.
man, goddamn, did that thing get publicity? Or
I tell you, it's
what?
Stan Winston. I guarantee you, when it comes out, that Stan Winston did it.
It must be Stan Winston because he was the one
He's
saying.
the one saying it's so good, and
Yeah.
they all kind of look like they're smirking. You kind of see the guys in the background, they're going, but they don't really look 100% convincing.
Well, he said, I mean, I don't know who did it, but I'd like him to work for us or
Yeah,
something.
he was really good.
Yeah, it's like, we're doing just what they're doing, man, just on a smaller scale.
You think like Stan Winston would do something like that?
Oh,
yeah.
Hell, he
Why,
does.
what
Makes
is-
his living doing
What does he
that.
have to gain though?
It's nothing.
It's a
just
joke.
It's a joke. They have nothing else to do. They've done
They
everything.
thought of it. I mean, for guys like that, they thought of it
But-
sitting around getting stoned in their house with that. Man, we could go. We got a
Just
week
like
where
we're
the
doing
shop's
it. The
not
same reason why
cranking.
we're doing it.
They could go turn that alien thing out in a couple
I mean,
weeks.
but
and
these
shoot it.
guys have done, you know, the effects for the biggest films in Hollywood. They don't need.
They don't need anything.
They don't need the money,
But,
they don't need-
but it's different. For
Well, what?
them.
How much? I mean, you know, is the alien autopsy was for money?
They make a lot of money on that.
It's for the. I think it's for the host.
Just for the hell of it.
I think it's
But
valid.
if they get caught though, but if they were ever to get caught, don't you think that would?
No one's gonna hire Stan Winston again.
That'll work for an advantage. Of course.
Nobody really thought it was.
Matt was having a problem with this documentary. Like, if we didn't tell people that it was real or not, that it would discredit us and make us this and that. I mean, we
We're
might
never gonna hire for a documentary again.
We might
I'll
have
never get how to make a witch documentary.
we might run into problems with some people, but the most people would be like, fuck, man, if you can do that here, you can do it, somewhere else, and you can do it for my film or whatever. And
So you don't think it would hurt to?
I think that any publicity is good publicity.
Right now, we have nothing to lose.
See, none of them want to.
Except the reputation. Except, you know,
I have a
I don't have no reputation.
Right, okay.
After the five
possibility
film,
of a good
after the
reputation.
But
No,
a good
that's why-
reputation as a filmmaker
After
is a
filmmaker.
After Game of the Dream and a trilogy, the three filmmakers disappointed us very much by coming up with a fake.
No, I
documentary.
understand your concerns because
I understand his concerns too.
But I think it would only be good.
But the publicity it would create, whether is it real or
I
not,
think there would be a lot of people in the public that would be.
who
The thing
gets
is we're not hurting anyone.
But after they come out of the theater, they'd be upset.
Yeah, like Ed said, if there was like an
$7.
AIDS thing, somebody died of AIDS.
Yeah, if there was some kind of thing where we're documenting some guy dying of cancer, and it's like, no, it was a hoax. Ha ha. Well, it's not like
Look, he's alright. He's like,
he's alright. There it is.
walking into the theater.
But people are paying their $7 or their $4.50 or whatever to
They're gonna watch it on TV.
under the notion that this thing is a real documentary.
Whose
So
notion
you're-
is that?
Yeah,
So
under the
you're
assumption.
lying to the public.
No, we're not.
Sure you are.
It's an assumption. We
You
are
never
not.
say it's a documentary.
Because I've gone through this question in my head. It is not our obligation. You're talking an issue of presentation. What we're doing is challenging the conventions of presentation. Because something looks like a documentary, smells like a documentary, acts like a documentary, does not necessarily mean it is a documentary. And all we're doing is flying in the face of that convention. Anything that's made a change in the standards of one thing or another does that. It's not our fault.
If you do it deceiving people,
But Matt, we're not
There's a
deceiving
tradition
people.
of fake documentaries.
We're not.
but they're normally comedies. And people know right away.
We're not deceiving. We're not deceiving people. Like it's not like the nightly news and shit. You know.
Even like War of the Worlds, you know, if you listen to War of the Worlds, that's
Yeah,
what
this is
ethically
like War of the Worlds.
irresponsible.
But if
what
I
we're
go
doing.
if I go into Blockbuster and I rent a documentary from the documentary section.
No, you won't be renting. You won't be renting from the doc section. You'll be renting from the feature film section.
Yeah.
It'll be in the
And when
feature
it-
film.
and when it's entered into
We leave that up to them.
film festivals,
It'll be entered as
it's
a
gonna
narrative.
be entered
We
as
are
a
not in
narrative.
any way saying that this is a documentary. We're
No, we
leaving
enter
that
it-
assumption up to
We
whoever
turn it as a
wants.
narrative.
Well,
When people say,
but you know, there's a
okay.
film in the Florida Film Festival this year called Garbage.
And that was this.
half documentary and half feature, and he entered it as a documentary, and they accepted it as a
Right.
documentary. And it was not fully a documentary. It
Is it
was,
docudrama?
it was half straight documentary and half narrative,
Right.
but presented completely as a real documentary.
Right.
No
Very
indication.
And nobody cared? People
Well,
at
the
the
thing
film
is-
festival didn't say,
The only thing that
this isn't a
cared-
documentary. It's a
Well, I was on the review committee. I was on the committee that were screened these docs, and it's like we had this issue. It's like, what is this, a feature or a doc? And we had to my take on it was that I would rather have probably have seen this be judged with other features. And the minute you break the tradition of documentary, then it becomes a feature. No matter if 80% of it's factual and 10% of it's contrived, you're no longer a doc.
Right.
But
So I
film
agree with you
festivals
there.
are
But he's
tertiary concern.
He's trying to market it as a doc, which we're not going to be doing that. We're just saying, here's our film, and if we enter it in, it's going to be entered in as a narrative, and that's,
I think
if
that
people
TV,
think it's a doc, that's their problem.
Yeah,
you know?
if they think it, but as long as we don't intentionally go out and try to fool people.
Yeah.
well, we are trying to fool.
I mean, we are trying to fool people, but we're
But I
not
think we're trying to fool people
misrepresent
in
it.
the tradition of, say, P.T. Barnum. And when you go to a freak show at a carnival or something like that, you're getting fooled. You're not really
Oh, yeah, when you
expecting.
go see a magic show,
Yeah.
this guy's not really levitating.
It's-
Or is he?
We're just taking the willing suspension of
You will, when you
disbelief
come back at
to another level. We're just asking people to. We're just fooling people on a different level than films normally do.
I don't see a problem with it, Matty.
I look at it as a horror
I think-
film that looks like a doc.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's a
And
horror
other
film.
people
I got
think
no problem with that. I just don't want to market it as, this is a documentary. And then when people come out of the theater, they go, or at the very end, we go, we fooled you.
But we need to market it so people think it's a documentary.
You never say it, but
We need to say it without saying it.
That's what I've
We
always
need to keep the language subtle enough so that people draw their own conclusions. I'm not going to spend all this money to make this movie and then flat out tell somebody that it's not real. I'm going to allow them to draw their own conclusions. That's the strength of the project.
yeah, they're going to have to do some research.
I mean,
All it takes is that all they need to do is look at a map of Maryland and find there's no Blair County, Maryland.
yeah.
That's
I mean,
it.
and
But at least you have to do that. It's just like the bridges of Madison County. That when that book came out, it was supposed to be real, and that it created an entire. That's why that book is so popular. So because people
Half the
thought it was
films
real.
out there, you see, when you watch In Search Of, those things are so embellished. You can't. It's unbelievable how embellished that shit is. The way they shoot it, and the way they lead you on,
Yeah,
and
you're not-
directions
you're not
and shit
really-
like that.
we're not really-
Think about those fields. Remember the damn corn crop circles and all that. Completely fabricated. All that bullshit.
But the
people love it.
documentarians didn't know that. And they were.
They're still, to this day, everybody knows they're all fake, they're still showcasing those things. Now they're showcasing on how they did it.
Right,
You know,
yeah, that I
it's
saw.
but it's entertainment in a different form. It's just entertainment value in a different form. And it's one of those things that we're not telling a lie, we're just not telling the truth. You know what I'm saying? We're just not saying anything. We're saying,
just throw it out there.
throw it out there and let you guys decide what it is. It looks like one thing, but it is something else. And that's part of the appeal, I think, is that it does challenge those conventions. You know, you assume because it looks this way that it is one certain thing, and then you go, maybe I should be a little wiser next time I look at something.
Yeah, well, let's best case scenario, we sell this to HBO. Best case scenario, we sell it to HBO. HBO markets the film.
Right.
We don't market the film,
we'll have no say.
but the way they would market it, the way I would suggest that they market it to play to the strengths of the project is if you've got Paradise Lost or Brothers Keeper or any documentary, you can cut a 30-second spot on that to advertise it without saying this is a documentary. But you cut the commercial to make it look like a documentary. The Blair Witch tapes or the Blair Witch files or whatever the fuck it's going to end up being called. People are going to assume that it's a documentary.
Right.
They tune in thinking that it's a true deal. You know, especially with.
And you don't have a problem with that.
No.
I mean, I think
that's the whole point of the film.
I think they're gonna be a lot of people.
If we're not gonna fool people,
I think there are gonna be a lot of old ladies and shit who are upset.
Are you upset about the autopsy thing?
Yeah,
that's what art is for, man.
No, but I mean,
art is to upset and make people think.
Because the filmmakers who made that never said this is real or this is not.
Of course, they said it's real.
What? Which one?
The people that put together the documentary.
The guy who supposedly found the footage says that he found it.
Yeah,
and it's dates from that time and it's real.
The guy that found the footage says, I bought it from a guy who doesn't want to reveal his name. He says it's real. But the guy that bought it never says one or another.
Well, that in itself is contrived.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, he's saying that to keep himself from having to say it's real or not. He's orchestrated that little, I found this film, the guy I got it from says it's real.
Well, this is the same thing we're doing.
He's done the same thing we're doing. We're doing the same exact shit. So it's
But we know good and well, one way or the other.
well, so does he.
And Matt,
You see him?
Matt, listen.
The alien documentary.
I hope it upsets people. I hope it upsets people.
I mean,
I hope that there are people pissed off
That was my.
all over hell and back when they find out that it's not real because
There's gonna be people that get pissed off. There's gonna be people that gonna be like, wow.
And people are gonna be like, God, there are gonna be people that laugh.
They're gonna laugh.
That was cool as shit, man.
Yes.
But you really don't think that there's any risk to,
Legally?
well, legally or to any filmmaker reputation?
Reputation number one.
Yeah.
I mean, when Greg comes out with Third Shifters, do you think people are going, hey, is this real? That's the guy who did that and produced that one film. Or when he comes out with Sarah's Morning or something like that?
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
No, I don't think so. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't be doing this.
I don't think any of us here are planning to make our living making documentaries.
The thing is, the people that it would upset are the people we really aren't going to be controlling our career anyway. The people that probably
Industry
dig it.
people are going to go, holy shit.
That was
these
really
guys
fucking awesome, you know?
got their shit.
Yeah, well, we're gonna upset your mom and dad. What the hell are they gonna do to me? For me, they're gonna.
I don't know.
They might pay their money.
I guess I have a problem just with
You're just naive.
intention trying to fool anybody.
Well, okay,
That's what it's always
Fool you into thinking you're gonna work on this film.
We're dividing that phone. You see me?
How did you feel? Do you remember, I mean, I don't know how old you are, but do you remember like when Amityville Horror was accepted as real, and then they came out and said that it was fake?
Yeah, the whole book shit.
When that book came out, it was published as non-fiction. It was published as...
It's based on a true story.
I had never heard that until now.
The Amityville Horror?
I knew there was a movie, but
Are you upset?
You upset?
No, it came out for a book. It existed as a book for years. That was non-fiction. They were on TV and everything. That was real. That all those events really happened to them, and they totally maintained that it was real. When the film was made, it was still maintained that it was real.
Yeah.
It was not until after the film that they actually went public and said, "We made that all up drunk one night, and wrote the book." after we thought of this story. Moved out of our house. They did everything that they said, but they were moving out of the house anyway. They just made up a story for why they moved out of the house.
It was a good story too, man. It was a good movie.
Scary as hell, that book. Scared the shit out of me.
That book is scary, man.
Yeah.
I was reading, I used to read it at night and shit before I go to sleep and be like, what the fuck am I doing? Alone in my room?
Yeah, I think that sucks that they did that. Absolutely. Absolutely. They intentionally went out and lied to people. Just like this guy that wrote
Did it hurt their
Primary
career?
Colors,
Did
and
it
he
hurt
lied
their
about
career?
writing it.
About what?
The guy that wrote Primary Colors, Joe Klein or whatever the heck his name is.
What's that?
Do you remember that book that came out about the primary, 92 primary, and it was, came out anonymous? And they asked this one guy who wrote for Newsweek, did you write it? He's like, no, I didn't write it. He denied it for months and months. And it finally came out that he wrote it.
Yeah, because they thought
he was fired from CBS.
It was in his
But he's
style.
a journalist.
But he's a journalist, Matt.
You know,
There's a difference. It's like Dan Rather coming on there
That's what
going.
documentarian is, to a certain degree, as a journalist.
But we're not documentarians. We're filming. But
we're telling people we're documentarians.
They're not.
Who gave you that idea that we're telling people we're documentarians? Where did you
That's what you guys keep coming back to, is that we want to make people think this is a documentary.
Yes, absolutely.
But we're not telling anybody we're documentaries. We're not
We're gonna
saying,
make it look like a documentary.
right. There's a difference.
Well, I don't have a problem making the footage, but when you try to sell it, when you tell people, go see my documentary, or this
That's the
this
whole
film is a
core of
documentary.
art, man. That's the whole core of art, is to challenge people's conventions.
Go
If we
see
sat
this.
there-
Go see this film that's about these three filmmakers that go up and disappear in the woods, and this film tries to explain what happened to them.
What happened to them?
What I just told you is exactly what the film is. I didn't tell you it was true.
The only thing
And you can't tell me that that's not.
It's misleading as hell.
It's
Hell
not-
yes, it's misleading. It's marketing. That's what marketing is. That's our hook.
You know what? Remember I was talking about the IFFM?
That's the strength of this film. I mean, that is why that's the only reason to make this film.
That's what's gonna set this film apart from other films.
And that was a big reason that Primary Colors book sold so well, because it came out anonymous.
Yeah.
And there was a big to-do about who wrote it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons it sold, but ethically, is it right to do that just
so wait
to
a
sell
second.
it?
So now this guy that just sold it, what's his name?
I don't know, Joe Klein or something.
Joe
I can't
Klein.
remember. Joe
Schmo. Now he writes another book, but it's a make-believe story. Right. You know what I'm saying? It's fiction.
It's total fiction, right? Okay.
You think people are not gonna buy it? People, you know?
I mean,
you think it's not gonna sell?
I have questions whether or not anybody would publish it. There are a lot of pissed off people.
Yeah, but don't be pissed off.
That's even another reason to take out another book. You gotta use whatever to your advantage.
I mean, it would be up to you personally. I mean, me personally, I'm not worried about it affecting my reputation,
And you don't have any problem misleading people.
hell no.
That's the core.
That's not the point. That's the point of the film.
And also, you're not misleading
I
anybody.
mean, how are you expecting to present it? I mean, what's the point in making it a fake documentary if you don't play it to the hills?
Well, and also, you're not.
Well, Spinal Tap didn't do that. Bob Roberts didn't do that, but I thought they were both.
Yeah, but
really
you don't
good
have
films.
to be immersed into that reality to have it be effective. If you know that from the very beginning that
It's
the
fake,
Blair
you're not
Witch
gonna
is
get
fake,
into
then
it.
it's just like any
You're not
other
gonna sit
horror
through it.
film.
You're not
And
gonna
why
sit
go to the trouble of shooting all this stuff real time? Why not just make The Evil Dead and call it The Blair Witch? I mean, and shoot it like a feature. It's not playing to the film's strengths. We would be stupid to make a fake documentary and not market it as a fake documentary, not try to fool people.
Well,
But-
we can market it as a fake documentary.
But then
But
it's
I
a
don't know
fake
if it's a
documentary.
real documentary.
Nobody would go see it. I mean,
No?
no, I don't think anybody would see it. The thing about this movie is that it needs to create a buzz where it's like, is it real, is it not? I know a guy who researched it. There's no Blair County, Maryland. It's not real.
Right,
It looks real. This, that. Well, let's go see it because, I want to see what they did. That's the kind of buzz that we need to create.
If we keep it quiet enough.
Yeah, you keep
If you keep it quiet enough and you open it on HBO, nobody says anything about it until it comes out.
That I have no problem with. But intentionally.
But what do you have a problem with? I mean, what do you have a problem with?
Marketing it. As
Well,
a
HBO better market it as a documentary.
If they're smart.
If they're smart.
If any distribution company is smart, they will appreciate what we did by keeping the actors, everything hushed, and they will. And first of all, they're going to decide on their own. We're not going to have much decision in that.
Right.
But
that's the appeal. That's why they're going to buy it.
they're going to do that. Yeah, that's the appeal. They're going to say,
that's their
we can
marketing
fucking sell this film as a documentary, and let them fucking deal with it.
True, I mean, it's gonna be out of our control, so.
If they offer us enough money, it will be out of our control.
If they offer us what it costs to shoot, it'll be out of our control.
No, I mean, you get a fucking. That's the whole thing. Like I was telling about the IFFM. You send some people there who weren't. If people ask you, well, is it documentaries or narrative? You say, I don't know, man. I mean, I wasn't there, but it looks like a documentary to me, man. I mean, it looks real to me.
Okay,
And I look at the credits, and there's nothing,
See, the thing is you have to equate it to like a magic trick. A magician is lying. Every trick he does, it's a lie.
But you know that going in.
No, not necessarily.
They never tell you that.
You're making that assumption based on your intellectual ability to discern that it's not real. But someone who thinks voodoo is real and you don't think it's real, well, to them it's very real. So, a magician of any form or whatever is lying, based on your conventions and your logic, But the thing is, if it is giving somebody something that they want, if it's entertainment value or what have you, then you're not hurting anyone.
But you're saying it doesn't matter. If it's entertaining, then that's all that matters.
I think the appeal of it from an artistic standpoint, from a filmmaker standpoint, is that you are challenging a certain convention, that you're not hurting anybody in the process, you're just saying, hey, you guys have been thinking this way for so long, now we're going...
Yeah, it's not like we're lying about anything.
You gotta change your way of thinking. What you see isn't necessarily what you're getting. And that's what it appeals to me about it from a filmmaker standpoint. From a marketing standpoint, they'll deal with it however they want to deal with it. But we're not saying it's a documentary. We're not saying this is fact because we'd be stupid to do that. All you have to do is look and there's no Blair County and then we look like idiots.
Right.
But we just say we'll just leave it up to the public and let the public wallow around in their convention and misconvention or whatever you want to call it until they finally poke their head up and say, this is all fake. What if they had me fooled? What a great film. And they're like, I'm really pissed off. We'll just, whatever it is, it's going to generate attention and buzz about it. And it's going to show us as filmmakers that we're very skilled at manipulation, and that's what filmmaking is.
Yeah, and the bottom line for me is that people are not going to be that angry because you're not hurting anybody. You're not saying that
Montgomery County, there's a death cult in Montgomery County.
You're not saying that
the tourism board
a certain person was involved that hasn't already signed and said that they'll do it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You're not like, you're not saying that Bill Clinton is a bad president. You're not hurting anybody. You're not hurting anybody. Just like wrestling, professional wrestling. Everybody knows it's fake. But they don't tell you it's fake. If you've ever seen the Federation go on and go, all right, we're going to have a match here. Of course, you all know it's fake.
Now we have a fake choreographed match between two guys who were earlier standing out in the hall talking about what they're going to do tonight.
That's listening on what they're going to do. But you have,
But that's a good analogy.
Idiot.
No, but that's the whole thing. You're not hurting anybody. The wrestling is not hurting anybody.
Wrestling is as terrible as it is, it's a good example. You're right.
As long as we're not hurting anybody, we're not doing a documentary about AIDS or some Holocaust.
Yeah, you're not trying to raise money for something.
You're trying to raise money for us.
Right.
For Greg Hale, so I can buy me a fucking car. And
I'll buy you a car, Dave.
And a TV.
And TV.
That's why I'm making this film.
TV is a big death box.
Can we say that?
Yeah.
Please go see this realistic trailer. Greg Hale would like to buy
I would like to buy
and
a car.
TV.
This film's gonna rock.
I want to make some money off of making movies as opposed to pay.
Is that thing on?
Oh yeah, we
Witches have haunted the passages of folklore throughout history. Oriental sorceresses, European hags, and voodoo priestesses are all variations on the same theme. Women in league with supernatural evil. They were blamed for the stillborn, bad crops, sudden illness, and anything else frightened men could not explain away. America has a long tradition of persecuting witches. The famous trial in Salem was just one example of a mania that swept through the colonies. Women accused of witchcraft were drowned, hanged, and burned at the stake. These bloody spectacles were widespread until late in the 18th century, when another bloody spectacle took their place, the American Revolution. After the War for Independence, history books tell us little about witchcraft in the United States. Local and regional folktales, however, are full of references to supernatural occurrences, and they're all to earthly consequences. One of the most dramatic examples of this is the Blair Witch of Western Maryland, which originated with an extremely rare book. Supposedly written in 1785, it is entitled The Blair Witch Cult. Commonly considered fiction, this strange tome documents the fate of an unknown Maryland township cursed by an outcast hag. Several children accused Ellie Kedward of luring them into her home to draw blood from them. In court, the children's wounds would prove damning evidence, and Kedward was found guilty of witchcraft and banished from the village in the middle of a particularly harsh winter. She was assumed to have died from exposure. Although the name of the town is not mentioned in the book, it is assumed from the title that it is set in Blair County, and the region's bizarre history certainly supports this assumption. In 1883, a hermit named Rustin Parr abducted and murdered 7 children in the county's Black Hill area. Parr stated at his trial that he killed them for an old woman ghost. Whether he was telling the truth or simply manipulating the old legend will never be known. He was hanged for the crime and maintained the story of his supernatural accomplice all the way to the gallows. In 1890, an 8-year-old girl was reported missing and search parties were dispatched. The girl was found the next day, but one of the posses failed to return. The bodies of the 3 men were found in Dixon Drove Cave 2 weeks later. The men had been disemboweled, their teeth pulled, and unrecognizable symbols had been carved into their faces, hands, and feet. The missing girl claimed that she had been led into the forest by an old woman who walked without touching the ground. In 1889, 11 witnesses testified to seeing a pale woman's hand reach up and pull 10-year-old Kayleen Treacle into Tappy East Creek. Her body was never recovered from a stream only 2 feet deep. For 13 days after the drowning, the creek was clogged with oily bundles of sticks, and the water was undrinkable. These accounts are verifiable by newspaper articles and legal documents that are stored, along with the only known copy of the Blair Witch Cult, in the Maryland State Historical Museum. While these stories have gathered dust in glass cases, they have slowly been absorbed into the campfire ghost stories told by Blair residents. Local folklorists tell of hearing the cries of the witch's young victims echoing through the trees. Others claim that sections of the Black Hill area are lost in time, and that once entered, there is no way out. It was these simple folk tales, told to her by her grandmother, that first attracted Montgomery College film student Jane Steiner to the legend of the Blair Witch. A born journalist and a dedicated artist, Jane was drawn to the eerie mystery of the story's origins. After an interview with Rockville occultist Norm Terwether, Jane learned of the history behind the folklore and was hooked. After graduating, she raised $5,000 from family and friends, enlisted the help of classmates cameraman John Miller and sound recordist Billy Madsen, and began making plans to shoot a documentary on the Blair Witch. In October of 1993, the film crew arrived in Blair, the county seat of Blair County, to shoot 2 interviews and establishing shots of the surrounding area. Jane interviewed Mary Brown on the evening of October 12th and Chester Norris the morning of the 13th. Norris told the filmmakers that the graves of the hermit's victims in the cave where the posse's bodies were found were less than 20 minutes from the town and were easily accessible by an old logging road. A clerk at a local convenience store saw the 3 that afternoon when they stopped to buy snack food and drinks. He would be the last person to see Jane Steiner, John Miller, or Billy Madsen alive. When Madsen failed to report to work 2 days in a row, his employer contacted Steiner's roommate, who in turn called Angie Steiner, Jane's mother. The first APB was issued on the 17th, and the Maryland State Police launched their search of the Black Hill area on October 18th. This operation would last 10 days and include up to 100 men aided by dogs and helicopters. 8 months later, the investigation, which included experts from the FBI, was terminated. 33,000 man-hours had failed to find a trace of the filmmakers, their car, or their gear. The case was declared inactive and unsolved June 23, 1994. Then, in October of 1995, students from the University of Maryland's Anthropology Department discovered a duffel bag full of film cans and videotapes buried under the foundation of a 200-year-old cabin. When the evidence was examined, Blair Sheriff Ron Cravens announced that the 17 rolls of black and white film and 43 8mm videotapes were indeed the property of Jane Steiner and her crew. After an initial month-long study of the bag's contents, the sheriff declared the footage to be an elaborate hoax. Outraged, Angie Steiner launched 2 unsuccessful lawsuits against the state of Maryland to release the footage. Finally, under pressure from state officials, the sheriff agreed to release the evidence to the filmmaker's next of kin when the legal limit of its classification runs out. On October 23rd, this footage will be given over to the estates of Jane Steiner, John Miller, and Billy Madsen. On that day, a new investigation will begin. Angie Steiner has contracted Haxon Films to perform the first private sector investigation of the Blair tapes. The Blair Witch Project will be an unprecedented journey into the heart of one of America's most mysterious puzzles. Haxon Films hopes to uncover the hidden truth about the Black Hill disappearances.